Hey there, listeners, and welcome to Film Jot Review's Spider-Man: Far From Home, sequel to 2017's Spider-Man: Homecoming, but also taking place after the events of Thanos in Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. A quick BTS side note: I purposely waited to restart doing Film Jot reviews after Endgame came out because of my emotional bias, which makes this movie my first MCU review, but sadly, my first superhero review went to Dark Phoenix. Moving on. Spider Man Far From Home follows Peter Parker, aka Spider Man, 8 months after the events of Avengers Endgame. He's, for the most part, getting back into the swing of things with life in school. His class goes on a trip abroad, which eventually turns into an unwanted superhero work as Shield head Nick Fury forces Spider Man along for a few missions with newfound hero Mysterio. Let me start off with probably my biggest takeaway from the film. Stylistically, this movie is very pleasing, especially because it probably feels the most like a comic book coming to life compared to other films within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU. And that's not me trying to diss other movies in this 23 film universe. I mean, Iron Man was good because it felt real and it was grounded. Thor was otherworldly like, and it needed to be. Guardians of the Galaxy was a fun ensemble space epic. And this movie, Far From Home, was big and weird and comic accurate without feeling or looking goofy. It felt and looked like a Spider Man comic, especially one with Mysterio, should be. Which, speaking of, it's another highlight for me. Mysterio, as a fan of who he is and what he does within the comics, games, and animated shows, I felt that not only are we in a silver age for effects to do the character justice, but bringing him into the universe and this movie now was perfect. The movie captures the character in the best way imaginable, and Jake Gyllenhaal brings him to life so well that I left wanting more. My biggest fear going into this film was whether or not they could translate Mysterio's character onto the big screen, and this movie delivers, with everything I wanted from Mysterio, however, not everything I wanted for Mysterio. But that comes from a personal bias, and I would have to include some spoilers, so I'll just steer away from that for now. Moving on, just like the previous film Spider Man Homecoming, this movie, with everything that goes on, manages to stay focused enough of making this a journey of character for Spider Man, while also having a reverse play of growth from a series perspective. Homecoming gave us a Spider Man who was too eager to grow up, but through Iron Man and the Vulture, learned to pull back and stay humble and simple. This movie, Far From Home, gives us a Spider Man who wants to stay small on the sidelines for just a while longer, but through the events of Avengers Endgame, plus Nick Fury, and other grand threats such as the Elementals, it forces him back into the spotlight to grow and make personal sacrifices. Part of the subtle changes to character comes through even during the action sequences. Spider Man, as strong as he may be, shows that he can adjust well into a proper team up dynamic, which involves letting others help in significant ways so that other things like protecting citizens can take precedent in how they take on threats or foes in the future. On top of the character based film, they also take the opportunity to deal with the idea of legacy and moving on in a way that was not only satisfying to watch for this version of Spider Man, but also how it ties into Endgame, making this probably the best way to ease out of Phase 3 of the MCU. Avengers Endgame closed the chapter, and Far From Home was a good epilogue. And damn, I kind of want to end it on that note, but I kind of got some other notes and points that I want to get across first. Performances in this movie were great. Tom Holland specifically just blows it out of the park in ways I wasn't expecting, but it felt real for the character and the story. The chemistry between everyone is amazing, especially Peter Parker and MJ. I'm glad they're finally leaning into that romantic angle for those characters. It feels a little forced at first, but Tom and Zendaya sell it to the point I just stopped caring, really. Plus, just everyone from the previous film who returns for this movie, we get just a bit more to add to them and their characters, and I enjoyed every minute of it. They help remind the audience in this movie that this is high school and it has drama in the dumbest of ways. And it all factors into pacing, which in this movie is a bit of a double edged sword. I feel the pacing is good because there's so many factors that the film needs to address or get to, from establishing Spider-Man's relationship with Nick Fury plus Mysterio, then Peter's relationship with MJ and the trip he's trying to be a part of, and his other classmates, on top of getting the story to all the big action sequences. There's plenty of things that the movie wants us to see, and that it moves and moves, keeping the audience enthralled. However, with that, I was taken back because it felt at times a bit rushed, and I wanted it to focus in more or be gradual. But there's so much they needed or wanted to cram into this film that not everything lands on the audience like it probably should have. Overall, for superhero fans, this is a solid film. It feels like a good standalone Spider Man movie, while also being a nice follow up to Avengers Endgame. It's also a good summer movie, worth getting some friends together, grab some popcorn, and just enjoy. Out of everything that's come out this summer, this is the first summer action flick that didn't disappoint me. And we're in July, so that was 2 months of just meh. Anyways, there we have it, Spider Man Far From Home. Make sure to let me know what you thought of the film over on Twitter at FilmJot or Instagram at film_jot. Shout out to a friend of mine, the internationally known Steven Gutierrez, for not spoiling this movie to me because he was able to see it about a week early. And thanks again to anyone for listening, and until next time, this is FilmJot. Stay friendly, you guys.